The livestock harvest I do each fall is the culmination of my husbandry toils for the year. Harvest is difficult, not just physically, but it can be emotionally taxing as well. Having the right tools for the job is important for easing that difficulty level. Over the last few years, I've harvested successfully with generally appropriate tools, but not necessarily the right tools for my circumstances. This year, that's changing.
The first change for the pig harvest this year that I'm making is I'm changing the tool slightly for the kill. In the past years, I've always used a 22. It is pretty much the least amount of force to get the job done. Getting around right in the sweet spot, right there, right where their brain is. If you get that just right, it completely takes them out one shot, no problem. One of the people I had here last year that I was teaching how to do a pig harvest missed by just a little bit, and it took a follow-up shot, which is really not ideal. This year I'm switching to using a 410 shotgun round. The 410 is much more decisive. Even if you're off by a little, the concussion from the blast is still going to completely incapacitate the pig. You still get the stick and get everything finished. It steps it up a few notches in the impact while still not being overkill and causing massive devastation. Ideally, we would like to harvest as much meat as possible from the head, therefore keeping it as intact as possible. After the kill comes the scalding process. This is where things usually get a little bit more complicated. A few years ago, I actually rigged a boom pole coming off the building here, attached a chain hoist to it, and used that to raise and lower the pig into the scalding tank. The boom pole worked just fine, but the chain hoist was terrible. It was covered in grease, so as it got wet from the scalding process, grease was just slopping everywhere. It was a mess. It was getting on the pig. It was terrible. And the chain hoist was really slow. It took about 1 million pulls just to raise and lower the thing. It was really not ideal. Last year, a friend came up with his tractor, hauled it on a trailer. That was a big ordeal getting the tractor up here, but the tractor worked really well, raising and lowering. I don't own a tractor, and I didn't want to trouble someone. I asked them to haul a tractor over here again just so I could harvest the pigs. So I came up with a different solution. The redneck hitch hoist. The redneck hitch hoist is rated to hoist up to 350 pounds of livestock. This thing seems super solid. It has a good hand winch on it instead of a chain hoist. This thing is a lot faster, more responsive, and no greasy metal chains. It mounts right into a 2-inch tail hitch and has a really solid platform base. I haven't set it up yet, but down here at the base plate, you can actually set up some chains that can attach to the hide and actually rip the hide off of a sheep or deer, whatever you have, as you're hoisting it up. Of course, that doesn't apply to pigs because they don't have a hide, they have skin, so we scald them. This hitch hoist was pretty easy to assemble. I had it assembled in probably 10 minutes. It was no big deal. The problem I ran into, though, was my tail hitch had a rusted cotter pin. It was absolutely welded with rust, and it was proved challenging to get out. The only thing I don't like about it is it comes with a very small gambrel. I would not be using this for a hog. This is my gambrel. The plan is to do the kill in where the hog is right now, and then I'll have my pickup truck parked right here in the driveway. We'll just drag the hog over to it, then just attach it to the hitch hoist and drive the hog up to here, where it will hang over the scalding tank. Having learned all my harvest skills from farmstead meatsmith Brandon Sheard, I use the same method for scalding as he always did, which was in a 55-gallon drum. The problem with this is you can only fit half the hog in at a time. The barrel is 3 feet tall and it sits on top of an 18-inch jet burner, so it's 4.5 feet that you have to clear. Depending on the type of equipment you have, that can be difficult sometimes. Unless I were doing a small American guinea hog, this hitch hoist isn't quite tall enough for these full-size hogs to make it over the top of the barrel. So I had to come up with a different solution for scalding, and that's what brings us to change number 3, the scalding tank. I contacted a local stainless steel fabricator who does custom work, and I asked them, hey, can you build a rectangular tank for scalding pigs? They did. The tank is 5 feet long, 2 feet tall, and 2 feet wide, which should be enough to accommodate these pretty large old spot pigs. Having a tank like this actually takes care of 2 different issues. One is a lot lower to the ground, so the clearance isn't as much of an issue, and 2, it is a much bigger tank, so it can fit the whole hog at once, which cuts the scalding time down in half. The method for heating the water in the tank remains the same, and that is with the Bayou Classic double jet burner. This is fueled by a propane tank. It gets the name of jet burner because it sounds like a jet engine when it's lit. It is loud. This is my old jet burner that I've used the last several years. I've let people borrow it, and when it came back, it didn't work quite as well as it used to. This year I got 2 of these, the stainless steel edition, so they won't rust like the old one, and they'll match my new stainless steel tank. With this tank being 5 feet long, I needed 2 burners, one on each end, so it would be balanced. There's gonna be a lot more water for it to heat, so having the 2 burners is gonna get that water heated more quickly. As I said earlier, this burner is 18 inches off the ground, and with the 2-foot tank on top of it, that gives us 3.5 feet instead of 4.5 feet that we'd have to clear, so we save an entire foot, which is really cool. What's also really cool is down there is a drain, which will make getting the water out of the tank much easier than having to dump it over. After the scalding comes the scraping.
For scraping this year, I ordered one of these paddle things you see here from a company called American Hot Box. I spoke to the owner and told him what my harvest date was. He assured me that it would arrive in time. It has not arrived as of this recording, but hopefully it'll be here before harvest.
I was really hoping to have the shop done this fall for harvest, so I'd have the butcher shop area in there to do the meat cutting, but also the cool room, so we wouldn't be dependent on the right weather circumstances to do the actual harvest. There has been progress made in here. There's been progress on the framing, as you can see. We have this door hung here on the side. It's really disappointing to not have this finished this year, so it is what it is. You have some cello fans from last video. Let's give them an update so they can hear how you're doing.
Okay.
Harvest is coming up really soon, probably in the next video. So check back really soon and see how the new equipment and methods of harvest work out.